The alarms of the star frigate Silver Mercy screamed through the metal halls like wounded spirits. Red lights flashed, shaking shadows across the floor as soldiers ran in every direction. But among them, one man moved with a strange calm. His name was Hale, a human medic who had seen too many wars to fear another alarm. Still, today felt different. He could sense it in the tension of the air, in the way the officers whispered as he passed. Something terrible had happened, something far beyond a routine battlefield injury. But no one told him anything until the commander herself grabbed his arm. She said, breathless, "We need you in the Royal Wing, now." He froze. "Royal Wing? Why me?" "Because you're the only human medic with cross-species transfusion clearance." His heartbeat stumbled. Cross-species transfusion was dangerous, rare, and done only when all hope was nearly gone. "What happened?" he asked. "The princess. She was injured during the attack. We're losing her." For a moment the hall around him blurred. The alien allies of Earth were known for their grace and long, but their bodies were delicate. Healing them required skill, patience, and endless caution. But saving a royal heir, that was something else entirely. Didn't speak, he only grabbed his medical kit and ran. The Royal Wing looked like a shattered dream. Crystal walls were cracked. Guards pressed their palms against glowing shields, trying to keep energy sparks from spreading. At the center of the controlled chaos stood Queen, her tall figure trembling beneath her silver crown. Her eyes, ancient, violet, and filled with despair, lifted when approached. "You are the human medic?" she asked, her voice thin but commanding. "Yes, my queen." "Then save my child." She stepped aside. His breath caught. Princess lay on a floating medical bed, her skin pale like moonlit glass. Her silver hair was scattered across the pillows. Glowing wounds shimmered across her side, burning with the residue of enemy plasma fire. She was barely conscious, her breath shallow and fatting. "Her blood crystals are collapsing," the alien doctor said urgently. "Her body cannot generate enough energy to heal." "What do you need from me?" asked. The doctor hesitated. "Human blood carries a rare conductive protein. We discovered it by accident in an older conflict. It can stabilize the collapsing crystal structures, but the transfusion will drain you severely." Understood immediately. This was no simple donation. It was dangerous, possibly lethal. He looked at Princess. She was young, maybe 20 in human years. Her eyelids fluttered with pain. A weak glow trembled in her chest where her life energy flickered. "Swallowed hard. Prepare the transfer." Queen's voice shook. "Human, you do not have to do this." He met her gaze. "I couldn't live with myself if I didn't." Moments later, sat beside the princess's bed, his arm connected to a crystalline transfusion coil. His blood flowed through glowing channels, turning gold as it mixed with the princess's energy fields. Gasped softly, her chest rising with new strength. However, felt the opposite. His vision darkened at the edges. A cold ache spread through his bones. He clenched his jaw, refusing to pull away even when the pain bit deeper. "Stop the transfer," one of the alien doctors warned. "He's reaching the limit." "Not yet," whispered. "She needs more." His voice cracked, but he didn't let go. Queen watched in stunned silence as the human poured his own life into her daughter without hesitation. It wasn't duty. It wasn't obligation. It was pure, stubborn humanity, the kind that didn't calculate risk when someone needed help. Minutes stretched like hours. At last, the princess's color returned. The glow in her chest brightened, her breathing steadied. The doctor gave a small, astonished nod. "She is stabilizing." Exhaled in relief, but his body slumped forward. His vision tilted. He would have fallen if the queen herself had not caught him. "You gave too much," she murmured. He smiled weakly. "It was enough, right?" "Yes," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Because of you, my daughter lives." Closed his eyes, letting exhaustion pull him under. He didn't hear the queen's next words, soft, trembling, and filled with something new. "No human has ever shown us such devotion, and now I cannot allow you to leave." Her decision settled over the chamber like a sealed fate. And Hale, unconscious and unaware, had no idea how deeply his sacrifice had already changed everything. Woke to darkness first, then to the soft rhythm of a foreign heartbeat. It wasn't his own. It echoed lightly through the room like a distant drum, steady and calming. When he opened his eyes, he found himself lying on a floating bed of soft blue light. Strange flowers shimmered around him, glowing faintly as if they were breathing. His limbs felt heavy, as if someone had poured stone into his veins. Every muscle in his body trembled with a quiet weakness. He tried to sit up. Pain shot through his chest, sharp and bright. He gritted his teeth but forced himself upright anyway. He was a medic, a soldier. He didn't have the luxury of resting. But then a voice stopped him. "You shouldn't move." He turned his head slowly. Princess stood near the bed, leaning gently against the wall. Her color had returned, a soft silver-blue glow surrounding her like a fragile halo. Her long hair fell over her shoulders, untouched by the chaos she had survived. Stared, he had only seen her when she was dying. Seeing her alive now felt surreal. You're okay," he whispered. Nodded, "because of you." Her voice carried a music he hadn't noticed before, a quiet melody filled with gratitude and something deeper, something he couldn't quite name yet. She took a small step closer, though she still seemed weak. "My mother told me what you did. No one in our history has ever given their own life energy for an alien." Let out a tired breath. "I didn't do it for history." "Then why?" she asked softly. He didn't answer immediately. His thoughts drifted back to the moment he saw her struggling to breathe. The moment her life flickered like a candle about to go dark. He didn't know her then. He still barely knew her now. But he knew he couldn't watch someone die if he could stop it. "It was the right thing," he finally said. "That's all." His expression warmed, but her eyes also carried a sadness he didn't understand. "The Queen hasn't allowed you to leave your room." He blinked. "Why?" Before she could reply, the doors opened. Queen entered with slow, heavy steps. The guards followed, their armor glowing with a regal blue hue. The Queen lifted a hand to dismiss them, then approached bed. Her presence filled the room, tall, graceful, powerful, but her eyes were gentler than before. "Human," she said quietly, "I see you are awake." Tried to stand in respect, but his legs trembled. The Queen raised her hand. "No, stay." He sank back down, frustrated at his own weakness. The Queen stood beside him, her gaze steady. "Your sacrifice has placed you in danger." Frowned. "Danger from who?" "From your own body," she answered. "You gave more blood energy than any human should. You are healing, but slowly. If you leave without supervision, you may collapse again." Rubbed his forehead. "I understand the risks, but I still have work to do on the ship, my team." "They are safe," the Queen interrupted, "but you are not." Silence stretched between them. Then her voice lowered, "And there is another reason." Looked up, puzzled. "You saved the royal heir of the crown," she continued. "By our ancient law, a life debt binds you to the royal house until we release you, and she took a slow breath, "I am not ready to release you." Stared in disbelief. "So I'm being kept." "You are being protected," the Queen corrected firmly. "It feels the same," he muttered. The Queen's eyes glimmered with something sharp. "Do not mistake my decision as punishment. You are honored here." Didn't feel honored, he felt trapped. Princess stepped forward quickly. "Mother, please, he just woke up. Do not overwhelm him." Queen sighed, the tension in her shoulders softening. "You are right." She turned her gaze back to, "You will remain here until you recover. Then we will speak of your future." "My future," he echoed. "Yes," the Queen said, her voice heavy with meaning. "Your fate is tied to ours now, whether you accept it or not." With that, she left the room, her robes brushing the floor like falling starlight. Watched her mother go, then looked back at with gentle worry. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I tried to convince her, but she is afraid of losing you. We all are." Leaned back against the glowing pillows, his strength fading again. He didn't know how to feel: confused, frustrated, honored, afraid. His mind spun in circles he couldn't control. All he wanted was to save a life. He never imagined that saving one would cost him his freedom. Sat beside him, her voice soft. "For now, just rest. You are not a prisoner, not to me." Her words eased something inside him, even though uncertainty still clouded his thoughts. He closed his eyes, knowing that everything had changed. And this was only the beginning. The next morning woke to the soft hum of energy fields around his room. The walls glimmered faintly, casting a calm blue light over everything. The air smelled faintly of alien flowers, sweet and unfamiliar. He tried to sit up, but a gentle force field kept him on the bed. A soft laugh made him look up. Princess stood at the door, her head tilted in curiosity. "You're awake again," she said. "I've been awake," replied, voice hoarse, "but I can't move." She stepped closer, holding a small device that pulsed gently with light. "This is a stabilization device. It keeps your energy balanced. The Queen insists you don't risk yourself again." Frowned, "I'm not a child." "You are a guest in my world," she said simply, "and you saved my life. That makes you special." Her words caught him off guard. Humans rarely received such appreciation from anyone, let alone royalty. But the way she said it, with respect, gratitude, and no fear, made his chest tighten. "You don't have to stay," he muttered. "I can heal, then leave." Shook her head. "You can't understand. Mother says you are bound now, and I want you here." Stared at her, confused by the intensity in her eyes. Her gaze held something human-like: warmth, trust, and a quiet challenge. It was impossible to look away. Days passed, though couldn't keep track. Time moved strangely in the palace. Light cycled through the crystal walls, but he was often too weak to notice. Visited him frequently, bringing him small trays of food, stories about history, or tiny trinkets that sparkled like starlight. She had a gentle way of making him feel welcome in a place he had thought would always feel foreign. One afternoon asked softly, "Do you ever regret it, giving your blood?" Blinked, "No, I knew the risks, but I saved your life, that's enough." She hesitated, then said, "Humans, you have something we lack. You risk everything without thinking of honor or law, just instinct." He tried to hide his surprise. "I thought everyone did that for their own people." Shook her head slowly. "Not like you. You didn't consider politics, rules, or even your own survival. You acted for me just because I was alive." Looked away, embarrassed. "I didn't expect thanks." She smiled faintly, her fingers brushing the edge of his blanket. "You deserve more than thanks." Later, as the twin moons of rose in the sky, found himself on the balcony of his room. The night air was cool, filled with faint stars and alien constellations. Appeared behind him, her voice almost a whisper. "You're staring at the moons like you've never seen them." "I haven't," he admitted. "Not like this." She leaned beside him, silent for a moment. "You gave me life," she said, "and now I feel as if I owe you more than I can ever repay." Shook his head. "You don't owe me anything." "But I do," she insisted, her violet eyes reflecting the moons. "I've seen what humans can do. Courage, selflessness. You have no idea how rare it is in the galaxy." He glanced at her, feeling a strange pull in his chest. For the first time, he didn't think about orders, missions, or survival. He only thought about the person in front of him, the fragile yet determined girl who had survived because of him. "I guess maybe humans can surprise even the strongest queens," he said softly. Laughed, a delicate sound that seemed to mingle with the wind. "Even your queen would be proud," she said. "But I think you would surprise her too. She doesn't fully understand you yet." Looked at her, feeling a strange warmth growing inside him. He had fought battles, seen death, and risked his own life countless times. But nothing had ever touched him like this. The quiet bond forming between a human and an alien princess whose life he had saved with his own blood. Suddenly, the doors to the balcony opened with a chime. Queen entered, her expression unreadable. She said firmly, "You've spoken enough with him today." Frowned but nodded. The Queen's gaze then fell on, steady and commanding. "Human, you are recovering, but your place is not yet decided. Your presence is required for the ceremonies of gratitude. Do not resist." Nodded, his jaw tight. He felt a mix of frustration and pride. He had saved a life, yet he could not leave. But as he glanced at her hand brushing against her chest, he realized something he hadn't before. He didn't want to leave. Not yet. Not with her looking at him that way. And in that quiet moment, he understood the first truth of his new life. Survival had brought him here, but something more powerful, something neither law nor blood could command, was binding him to the princess. The bond between human and alien was forming, fragile yet unbreakable, and nothing, not even a queen's law, could undo it. The grand hall of the palace gleamed like a living constellation. Crystal pillars soared toward the ceiling, reflecting soft light across the polished floor. Followed the guards through the corridors, every step heavier than the last. His body was still weak from the transfusion, but he walked upright because he had no choice. The queen had decreed it. Princess walked beside him, her presence calm yet commanding. She wore a simple ceremonial gown of silver and blue, the colors of her house, but even simplicity could not hide her elegance. As she moved, the soft glow of her skin caught the crystal light, making her seem almost unreal. Human instincts wanted to run, to avoid attention, to escape the weight of expectation. But he couldn't. Every eye in the hall was on him. Some stared with curiosity, others with awe. Even the youngest whispered his name. He had saved their princess. He had become legend before even understanding what that meant. At the center of the hall, Queen waited, seated upon her throne. She was taller than he remembered, her presence a mixture of authority and quiet control. Around her, nobles bowed, their elongated forms glimmering like living gemstones. She lifted her hand, signaling for him to approach. "Human," she said, her voice echoing through the hall, "today we honor the life you preserved. Your courage has surpassed what any of our laws expected. You are remarkable." Stomach twisted. Remarkable, heroic. He was just a medic, just a man who had acted when no one else could. He wanted to tell her that, but the words stuck in his throat. Squeezed his hand lightly, grounding him. "Go," she whispered. "They need to see you." He stepped forward, feeling like a child being paraded for praise he did not deserve. The queen's gaze never left him. Then she did something he had not expected. She stood. The hall seemed to shrink under her power. "Human," she said, her voice softening yet firm, "you have given blood, life, and loyalty that few can imagine. You are no longer merely a guest here. By law, your fate is tied to the royal house until we see fit to release you." Froze. He had expected some kind of ceremony, some words of gratitude, but a binding law. His chest tightened. "Your bravery has earned my gratitude," she continued, "but also my protection. You will remain in this palace, not as a prisoner, but as part of our world now." A ripple of whispers passed through the hall. Some faces were shocked, others bowed deeply. Instincts screamed against the idea of being trapped, yet deep inside, a strange understanding grew. He could not leave, not yet. He had stepped into a world larger than his own, and it had already claimed him. Princess approached, her eyes searching his. "Do not fear," she said. "I wanted to thank you not just for saving my life, but for showing me what humans truly are. You did not hesitate. You did not calculate. You just acted. That is worth more than any law or ceremony." Blinked, the weight in his chest eased slightly. Her words weren't official, but they mattered more than any throne, crown, or law. Queen gestured to the nobles. "We shall proceed with the ceremony of gratitude. Human, you will accept our gift, not for duty, but for the bond you have created." From behind her, attendants brought a glowing orb filled with swirling light that pulsed like a heartbeat. His hand hovered near it. "This is our life energy blessing," she explained softly. "It will restore what you lost, strengthen your body, and tie you to us in ways you cannot yet imagine." Hesitated. The idea of being bound more deeply still frightened him. But he saw the hope in his eyes, the quiet trust she placed in him, and he realized he had no choice. He knelt, the orb hovered above him, glowing brighter with each passing second. Light wrapped around his arms, his chest, his heart. Pain and warmth mixed together as he felt life flow into him, alien energy merging with human blood, creating something neither world had seen before. He gasped as it passed through him, but he did not resist. He had faced death once to save. This was different. This was life being returned, a bond cemented between two species. When it ended, he collapsed to the floor, but this time the exhaustion was sweet, not painful. He had survived, he had been honored, and he had been claimed not by force but by a choice he had made long ago to act when it mattered most. Knelt beside him, brushing a lock of silver hair from his forehead. "You see," she whispered, "you belong here now, and I am glad." The queen watched them in silence. For the first time there was a softness in her eyes. She had expected defiance, perhaps resentment, but had given something more: humility, courage, and a human heart that could not be ignored. Looked up at the queen, then at the princess. He realized then that no law, no decree, and no fear could undo the choices he had made, or the life he had saved. And deep inside, he felt a strange, thrilling certainty. This world, these people, they were now his home. The palace walls were quiet for the first time since arrival. The glow of crystal lights bathed the corridors in soft blue hues, but the human senses remained alert. His body had recovered from the transfusion, but his instincts told him that peace was fragile. War had a way of finding the most unlikely places. Princess approached him as he practiced simple stretches, his muscles still stiff from days of inactivity. "You move like a wounded predator," she said, half teasing, half concerned. Gave a small smile. "Better a predator than prey," he replied. His tone was light, but his mind scanned the palace windows, the shadows, the hallways. Even now, danger felt close. Frowned. "Do you always think this way?" "Human instinct," he said. "I've seen too much to trust calm." Her violet eyes softened. "You've seen enough to know that sometimes courage isn't in fighting, but in standing where you belong." Paused, her words made his chest tighten. They had saved each other in ways beyond blood and duty. But duty still called. That night, a soft alarm stirred the palace. A series of dim lights blinked along the walls of the royal wing. His body tensed immediately. He had slept lightly, as humans always did in dangerous places. A whispered, tugging at his sleeve, "What is it?" "Stay behind me," he said firmly. He moved toward the source of the alarm. His hand brushed the hilt of the small plasma blade strapped at his side. Though no official threat had been reported, the warning was real, and his instincts told him it could be fatal. In the hall, shadows flickered. A figure darted across the far end, slender, fast, barely human. Eyes narrowed. He recognized the design of the weapon it carried. No, something else. Enemy infiltrators, he realized, perhaps seeking revenge for the attack that had wounded. He raised his hand, signaling the princess to stay behind. His blood still throbbed from the transfusion, and his heart pounded with a mix of fear and determination. As voice trembled, "Be careful." "I will," he said softly, and he moved. The intruder lunged, swift as lightning, reacted instantly, blocking with his blade and redirecting the enemy's energy. Sparks lit the hall, throwing shadows across the walls. He fought not for glory, but for survival, and for the princess who had become more than a mission, more than a patient, more than a friend. Hidden behind a pillar, felt her pulse rise. She wanted to act, to help, but earlier words echoed, "Stay back." Courage sometimes required faith in another's skill. She watched as he moved with precise efficiency, striking and blocking, even as exhaustion threatened to drag him down. Finally, with a final surge of effort, disarmed the intruder. The figure collapsed, energy dampened by his skillful maneuver. Stood over them, breathing hard, muscles trembling but alive. He turned to who ran to his side, her hand on his arm. "Are you hurt?" she asked, eyes wide. "Just tired," he said with a small, grim smile. "But they won't come again, not tonight." The princess shook her head, a mixture of awe and concern in her eyes. "You saved me again with your life." His gaze softened. "I would do it 1,000 times. You're more than a princess to me. You're important." Her voice dropped to a whisper, and the glow of her skin seemed warmer in the dim light. "You are important to me, too." The queen appeared in the doorway silently, her expression unreadable. "Human, you have shown that courage does not belong to one species," she said. "You have defended your place here and our people. Your actions honor both worlds." Bowed slightly, exhausted but proud. I only do what I must, that's all. The queen nodded slowly, stepping back into the shadows of the hall. Remember this, here you are never alone, and danger may come, but so will allies you cannot yet imagine. Guided him back toward the room, holding his hand with a quiet grip that made his chest tighten. You don't have to fight alone, she said softly. Not ever again. Nodded, the fight had reminded him of the fragility of life, the value of trust, and the strange, growing bond between human and alien princess. In that moment, he understood something deeper than bravery or honor. He had given his blood to save her. Now he would give his heart and courage to protect her, no matter the cost. And deep within, he knew that this bond, born in sacrifice, strengthened in danger, would shape the fate of both their worlds. The morning sun spilled silver across the palace gardens, highlighting flowers that shimmered like living crystals. Walked slowly along the winding paths, his muscles still sore from the previous night's encounter. But it wasn't the pain that weighed on him, it was the knowledge of what the queen had said. He was bound here, he couldn't leave. Princess joined him silently, her bare feet brushing the grass. She looked at him with that soft, knowing gaze, the one that made him feel both seen and vulnerable. Do you miss your world? She asked. Paused, thinking. I do. Earth, the open skies, the chaos of the cities, even the wars. But I don't feel it the same way I used to. Because of me? She asked softly, almost shyly. Not just you, he admitted. Because I realized what I thought I wanted doesn't matter anymore. What matters is here, right now. Protecting life, standing with people who need me. That's why I exist. She stepped closer, brushing a hand over his arm. I never imagined a human could make me feel safe, and yet I do, even when danger comes. Looked at her, the words catching in his throat. He had never imagined a bond like this with anyone, human or alien. He had been trained to heal, to fight, to survive, but not to feel something so raw and profound. A sudden rustle in the garden reminded them that the world was not safe, even here. Reached instinctively for the small blade at his belt, but nothing appeared. Just a falling leaf, twisting in the morning light. He exhaled, his body loosening. I can't leave, he said quietly, almost to himself. The queen said I'm bound, but, he turned to, I don't want to leave, not when you're here. Sighs softened, shimmering in the sunlight. Then you're not truly bound by law, she said. You are here because you chose to be, you saved me, yes. But you stay because you want to protect, to care, to belong, and that is the truest choice of all. His heart tightened. He had faced death countless times, but he had never faced a choice like this, one that went beyond survival, beyond duty. He had given his blood to save a life. Now he was giving his heart to protect someone who had become more than a mission. He reached out, taking her hand in his. Her skin was cool, yet the warmth of her presence spread through him like fire. I don't know what the future holds, he admitted, but I know I want to be here with you if you'll have me. Smiled, tears glimmering at the corners of her eyes. I will, she whispered. You've already given me everything. You've given your life, your courage, your trust, and now your choice. That is more than anyone could ask. The garden seemed to hold their breath. The flowers shimmered in the breeze as if witnessing something sacred. For the first time, felt a calm he hadn't known in years. Not because the danger was gone, not because he had a mission completed, but because he had found a place where his actions, his courage, and his heart mattered in a way he had never experienced before. Suddenly, a messenger approached, bowing low. Your Majesty, the council requests your presence, said softly, releasing his hand reluctantly. He nodded, understanding, but before he followed her, he spoke quietly, almost to himself. Whatever comes, I'll face it, for her, for them, for this world. Looked back at him, her expression unreadable but full of quiet pride. I know, she said, and that is why I trust you. As they walked together toward the council chambers, felt the weight of his choice settle over him. He was no longer a lone human in a strange galaxy. He was part of something larger, something dangerous, something beautiful. A bond that had begun in blood and survival was now forged in trust, respect, and the quiet promise of protection. The council would demand answers, the palace would challenge his presence, and enemies would still try to strike. But he knew this, he was no longer running, he was standing, and standing meant he could fight, not just with strength, but with heart. And for the first time in his life, understood that the human capacity for courage wasn't measured by survival alone. It was measured by love, loyalty, and the willingness to sacrifice for someone who could never repay you fully. The princess glanced at him once more, her violet eyes holding a quiet question, met her gaze, and in that shared silence, both of them understood something undeniable. Their lives were intertwined now, bound not by law, not by duty, but by choice and heart. And nothing, not even the Queen's authority, the enemy's threat, or the weight of the galaxy, could undo that. The council chamber was vast, its walls lined with towering crystals that hummed faintly with energy. Nobles, military leaders, and scholars filled the space, their eyes fixed on the human who had become the center of their attention. Stood beside Princess, his posture steady but his heart beating fast. He had faced countless battles in his life, yet this was different. This was a test of trust, honor, and understanding. Queen entered last, her silver robes flowing like liquid starlight. She paused at the center, eyes sweeping across the room. The murmurs quieted. Even the most stoic council members seemed tense. Then she turned to. "Human," she said, voice clear and commanding, "you have saved the life of the royal heir. You have defended her, faced danger, and given more than any of our kind could expect. Yet some question your presence here, your role in our society, your place in our world." Met her gaze steady. "I have no other wish than to protect her and to serve where I am needed. I do not seek honor, I do not seek reward, I only act." The chamber remained silent for a long moment, tension thick in the air. Then Princess stepped forward. "Council," she said, her voice soft but commanding, "this human saved me with his own blood. He did not hesitate even when his life was at risk. And now he stays because he chooses to, not because he must. That is courage, that is humanity, that is honor." Whispers rippled through the chamber. Humans were rare and even rarer among royalty. Yet no one could deny the truth of her words. Queen nodded slowly. "It is true. You are bound here not by law alone, but by the bond created in your actions. You are a part of this world now, human, not a guest, not a soldier, not a healer alone. You are part of our people." His chest tightened. He had expected gratitude, perhaps praise, but being called part of their people, it was something far beyond anything he could have imagined. Took his hand gently. "And I," she whispered, "I trust you with my life and with my heart." The words hung between them, fragile yet powerful. Eyes widened, but he nodded. He could not speak, for words felt inadequate. He had risked everything for her, and now the world recognized not just his courage, but his heart. Then the Queen's voice broke the stillness again. "Let this day mark a new beginning. Let it remind all of us that bravery transcends species, and that the bond between human and will not be broken by fear, by law, or by doubt." A soft glow emanated from the chamber's crystal floor, spreading warmth through the hall. It was as if the palace itself was acknowledging his place, sealing him not just in law, but in destiny. Later, when the ceremony ended and walked through the palace gardens, the twin moons rising over the horizon. The night air was cool, and the silver light reflected off the crystal flowers, bathing them in a quiet magic. "You're still thinking about leaving," said softly, reading his expression. Shook his head. "No, not anymore. I've realized that my place isn't back in my old world. It's here with you, with this world. I may be human, but I've learned that courage isn't about surviving alone. It's about standing where you're needed, protecting what matters, and making choices that matter even when fear is real." Smiled, her hand brushing against his arm. "Then you are truly ours now, not just by law or by blood, but by heart. And she hesitated, then whispered, "I am glad." Looked at her, and in that moment all his battles, all his fears, all his choices coalesced into something simple, clear, and unshakable. He had saved her once with blood. Now he would protect her with everything he had. And he would remain by her side, bound not by law, but by love and choice. The palace felt alive around them, the crystal walls shimmering with quiet approval. Somewhere in the distance, the soft hum of energy fields echoed like a heartbeat, steady and true. For the first time, felt that he had a home, not just a place to survive, but a place to belong. Princess leaned closer, "Do you feel it?" she asked. Nodded, "Yes, I belong here with you, with them, and I always will." She smiled, a quiet radiance in her eyes. "Then let us face the future together. Whatever comes, whatever dangers await, we face it as one." And under the glow of twin moons, the human who had given his own blood to save an alien princess finally understood the depth of his choice, and the power of courage, love, and the human heart. Bound by blood, choice, and unyielding courage, Hale had found not just survival but destiny. And nothing in the galaxy could ever take that away.